So that week, the 6th through the 10th, we won't be in Montpelier. Yeah.
Thank you.
And in my district anyway, we have, the Monday night, we have floor meetings.
Right.
And
Some do.
this year, we passed legislation, now Act 1, I think, that gives towns the ability to change that to an Australian ballot. So I don't know how your towns are doing it, but.
We have an informational meeting that 5 people attend. And then on Saturday, and then we vote Australian ballot on Tuesday.
Oh, on Saturdays, yeah.
Yeah.
Dorset seems to be, best I can tell, splitting it up and doing a floor vote
You can only do
for
Wednesday.
most of the
Wednesday.
questions.
I can be flexible too.
For two of the questions.
Yeah.
But it's that 6th to the 12th.
Yeah.
We're out.
It's every other Wednesday.
And then so
Okay.
while we're talking about that, thinking about that, which is not all that far away.
Right.
Right? So in my experience, which has not been very long, the crossover date has been set for the first Friday that we're back from town meeting break. So that's the date that we would have to get bills onto the calendar. I can't even, something has to happen. They have to be on the notice calendar, or maybe they have to have been read the second time. I'm not sure, but something has to happen by that Friday in order for the bills to then potentially move on to the Senate. So we've got several bills here on the wall, and if we intend to take action on them as they currently stand, we will want to begin thinking about them. And this might be an opportunity to for folks to share their thoughts if you've been looking at those and have any opinions one way or the other on things you think we want to jump on first. We just got H205, which I think we might take a look at next week.
That's from you two?
Heather and Rodney.
Oh, Heather and Rodney, okay.
Yeah. And maybe some other, I don't know if anybody else co-sponsored it.
Yeah, a bunch.
So, yeah, so maybe we'll have next week, have you sponsors walk us through the bill, just introduce it to us. And then we can have Ledge Council go through the language, see what's there.
Are committee bills subject to the same deadlines for crossover or not?
No, yeah, so right, we could there are things we can do at committee bill, yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, so you can see the numbers, you can look them up. If anybody has any strong feelings about any of them.
Somebody mentioned, we have 2 recreational bills up there. Somebody mentioned to me, I completely forget who, but that they wanted to present a recreational bill to our committee as well.
Different bill.
Yeah, but I think,
Well, there's somebody's they're doing the recreation omnibus.
Oh, that's it.
Three of the rec bills. I don't know if you already have, I think.
that's it.
They're-
Yeah.
It's coming out of no, it's a member. It's coming out of the rural caucus. 3 recreation related bills that didn't make it into their rural omnibus. They decided to put it to a outdoor recreation omnibus. Perhaps here, because at least I think that it includes trail accessibility and Green Mountain Recreation Fund.
So we don't need to decide this now, but take a look at when you've got some time. Just take a quick look at the bills and we can, later tomorrow or next week, we can just sort of formally maybe have people cast a vote for the ones that they would most like to look at.
We know of a bunch of others that are at Ledge Council.
I do not, no, don't.
I have one, short form.
We've got one.
We might have another one. Heather, Esme and I might have one. We can get it together.
Mike, did you have one or?
I was just gonna note that it feels like of the things on the wall, Reading Repair is the one that maybe has had the most oxygen around it or passed and so.
And Mike, on that H81, which we looked at it at Rural Caucus, that says agricultural. Does that include forestry equipment, which is an agricultural use?
I don't know, I haven't read what the bill looks like this year.
Or when one assumes it's not a good thing, but
Yeah, I'm not sure what the definitions are in the bill.
do I approach the sponsors?
Yeah, we could do that, yeah. Or take a look at it, maybe it's spelled out black and white. Okay.
It does have the first thing in the bill is your definition of agricultural equipment.
So, I was gonna, I sort of hinted at this morning, but, just in terms of moving ahead with universal school meals, which feels like we have been talking about for a long time, and maybe at a point now where, we will have the agency to just go through the technical changes that I think they want to make for clarification. And then if there are things that we'd like to do, particularly with the local purchasing incentive, which we now know may need to be written like so we don't know unless somebody's looked at Act 67 over lunch. We need to figure that out. And we will have Ledge Council come in next week to help us see what the language was on that. But in terms of the policy side of it, if anybody wants to, feels like they'd like to work on that between now and next week, I think I got Connor to agree that he'd be available to run ideas by, get questions answered. So if that's something that you feel like, you'd like to sort of work on that, let me know. And then, it's feeling like, maybe by the end of next week, we could start to mark the bill up and think about moving it along. But how is everybody else feeling about it in terms of where we are right now? What else would you feel like you'd like to know? John?
I just wondered, right, if there was some sort of consensus in committee on what came up this morning as far as do we get universal school meals really established and steady, and then maybe revisit all the sort of local food stuff. Just so potentially, while I'm most interested in that side of it, it potentially could slow it down or create.
Or derail it.
Right, not derail, but right, just get into the weeds in ways that the policy of kids for every, meals for every kid, is really what this is about.
But at the same time, I mean, the local food incentive program is existing and has 2 years under its belt. And if this is the opportunity to make sure that it moves forward. Right. Even, I would say it maybe is not all we would want to do in a perfect world on local food purchasing around in schools, but hopefully we could do at least what, status quo and then, take up further actions later after the universal meals is established.
Yeah, I think it's the part of the bill or of the program that is the resiliency part of it. I mean, otherwise it's just a food program. Not just any food program, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and in terms of it's, you know, it would have a smoother path forward. I am not sure. Yeah. But yeah, they take the fact that we have it, that it was assigned to us, suggests that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be too, you know, hands off with it, but.
I just wanted to say, bills that are on the wall, in the past, we've had the sponsor of those bills come in and explain a little bit what they're looking for. Easier for us to decide if we want to take it up or not.
Okay, good. Yeah.
What we've done in the past.
All right.
And then it gives them a feeling we're not just a government.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the other committees that I've been involved with, it wasn't so much sensitivity to people worrying about people's feelings. But I think
But to some of those bills that, I don't know if the really reasoning is.
Yeah.
Would make a difference.
Okay, yeah, you're right. If we're asking ourselves to make some judgments and decisions, that would be helpful. Okay.
David, what is the definition of this? The accessory use provisions for agriculture? What is the acronym for that?
Accessory on-farm business.
On farm?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
It's up there.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I bring that up because I went to a planning meeting, municipal one, and they were talking about redoing the town plan or bylaws and and it mostly had to do with this density infill for the housing crisis in village or downtown districts. But I thought that, but I didn't, it's the same, you might want to address accessory on-farm uses as well. If they want to liberalize those or.
Yeah, we did take some testimony on that, and one of these bills, I think, would give us a chance to dig back into that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious if we have a sense of the timeline in terms of when Universal School Meals will see Ways and Means and how much, feedback we can offer. And I mean, of course, they're the experts in paying for this program, but I'm just curious about what kind of, conversation can happen back and forth with that.
So I think typically what would happen is we would send the bill over with either the language doesn't have funding sources identified in it right now, I guess, right? So we could certainly, if the committee felt that if we could come to a consensus on what we wanted to, specific source, we could certainly add that in. And then Ways and Means would feel that they could do whatever they wanted as well, which is certainly their purview. But I think if we had a strong feeling about it, we could ask to go into the committee and testify on that too. Not just pass the bill along, but share. And we could also have our own conversations individually. Did you have a thought on that, or just thinking, should we talk about it?
Well, I'm first very curious about what they will propose, and I imagine that I think a good amount of folks on Ways and Means will be supportive of this, but I don't know if all will. And then, and so just bouncing back, whatever they see as the best route to pay for this, and then how we perceive that choice, and then just making sure that it's kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did spend a little time on that, and we didn't really talk about it, I think, afterwards, but what people's thoughts were on the different proposals. Some of them were food related, candy, soda. Some of them were not, software.
Meg, is that her name? She had a comment on that.
She had a what?
A comment on the taxation of snack food. Considering that underprivileged people often turn to snack food when other options are unavailable, it doesn't actually make sense to tax that source when we're trying to feed the hungry.
So, and candy being snack food.
Right.
Yeah.
And drinks.
Tricky one.
Nothing simple, right?
Yeah, but that's why I'm really curious about what Ways and Means says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinking about that.
Just to clarify, soda is currently not considered a grocery, so it's taxed at 6%,
That's what we heard yesterday. Yeah,
but
Candy
candy
is.
is a grocery.
right.
and
And
it's
he's
not.
considered food.
And the sweetened, the sweetener or the sweetened beverage, sugar added whatever beverage would be an additional tax.
Excise
Yeah.
tax.
Excise tax,
charge.
right, but it'd be further up the chain, so it wouldn't be on the tax. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
You know, to Meg's point here, and other people have brought this up as well, about taxing these items that where demand is, sort of less flexible, and elastic, and then, I'm wondering why we can't choose, might sound very naive, but an item where demand is heavily toward the rich, you know, what is something that only, like yacht tax. I don't know.
Tax.
I think that, frankly, I think that the software tax.
Exactly, yeah.
It's getting at that.
And then Josie pointed out, well, how would this affect, you know, smaller businesses as well, so, but yes, exactly, like leading up to something like that.
I still like Rodney's point, which is, and even though it's raising a tax, it should come out of the ed fund. The property taxes go to the ed fund. It keeps it clean. It's not gonna be something, it's gonna raise the amount of money that we need. 3 cents doesn't seem like a lot, but, you know, 3 cents here, 4 cents there, if I, you know, it's, I don't know what kind of tax bill we're looking at the end of the session. And taxing soda, I think, and it's not just soda, it's sports drinks, it's energy drinks, it's, you know, I don't know.
What,
So, Henry,
I was just wondering, does anybody know the impact on, like, with cigarettes and nicotine, like, was that effective as far as reducing intake or reducing, it wasn't?
I think generally, I'm speaking without data in front of me, generally, these kinds of taxes are effective at raising revenue, which is
Right,
important, but not effective at
Like,
curbing.
okay.
Well, the other thing is when you start taxing like sugar drinks or candy or any other, it's so unstable. I mean, if we go into a recession, people might cut out to candy, you know, or their soda. But property taxes, and this is why most of the education fund is funded through property taxes, because the land stays stable.
so I just wanted to say, I think the proposal, would have, so the education fund, the very first chart they put up there showed like, yeah, the property taxes are the majority of it, but 100% of the sales tax also goes into the education fund. Right? So if we decided, we should be, say decided to tax candy, then it has an exemption right now and it would just go into the education fund. And I think the excise tax also could go into the education fund, so as opposed to the general fund.
I wondered if anybody's following the online, the sports betting, doesn't the lottery
I think
support
it's
the education fund if that was?
in a very small way. It's like, it's not as much as you think. I went to a thing about sports betting before the session started and they thought the revenue would be under 5 million, which I find kind of hard to believe. I know, New York State made a lot more. But one thing I want to say about property taxes, because this might make people feel better about wealthy families getting a free meal, is the wealthier you are, the more property tax you pay. So that might be an equalizer, you know, and families that are in that middle $34,000 to $75,000 bracket
Yeah.
don't pay as much in property taxes, nor should they. I'm not suggesting that at all. But folks who make more than 75, I think maybe it's 90,000, pay their full share. So I feel okay about that.
I do too. I think that's a really good point.
Occurred to me last night when I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
3 a.m.
So that is property versus income tax,
Right.
which is complicated too, but in general, it would be
Right.
somewhat of a correlation.
Although I don't think, and maybe, I feel like we should, maybe this is just me being silly, but I feel like we have a chance to sort of make a statement about nutritious food and supporting that. And by taxing candy and taking candy out of being considered a food, which is supposed to be like a nourishing thing, and we tax that. And I eat a lot of candy. I don't mind paying. I think that feels like a legitimate tax, and that's only going to give us 3 million something. But that sends a message that we're using this tax to help support our kids eating healthy, nutritious meals.
Mike?
I think it's a universal meals bill, and we talk a lot about wanting nutrition, but it's ultimately it's making sure that
Kids are eating.
kids aren't going hungry.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's the point that we want to associate with this.
Good point.
That the kind of bill, and I think also taxes like that do tend to feel as if they are punishing poverty.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, sort of ultimate.
But why is taxing candy punishing poverty? Everybody eats candy.
But people who have more money, people who can say, I eat lots of candy and I don't mind paying the tax.
Right.
And I don't eat a lot of candy, you know, because like I have lamb to eat.
We're gonna tax mushrooms.
Hell no. No, but the whole carrot and stick idea, it's
Yeah.
very puritanical, and basically the people of the kingdom don't like that kind of social engineering. The idea that we're gonna like incentivize them here, but get them on that side. It feels very controlling, and
How are they going to feel about a 3-cent increase on their property tax?
oh, they're not gonna like that either.
Yeah.
But they're gonna be the ones who appreciate their kids being fed. That is for sure.
My folks will too.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that Twix, because it has flour and
And I was thinking, ooh, Kit Kats. No.
Kit Kats are,
Kit Kats they have a wafer.
oh, they do too?
Yeah.
No wonder I don't like those.
To Rodney's point about during recession, people buying less candy, it's actually the opposite. People buy more candy or chocolate specifically during downturns in the economy, because it's one of the few things that people can enjoy for a little bit of money. If you ever see a recession coming, buy into Hershey's.
It also mimics the chemical in your brain that's released when you're in love.
Oh, yeah.
George Orwell writes a good book on that. And purchasing, like when you have nothing, just purchasing those things that provide some sense of immediate like gratification, like goes way back.
You know, Chairman Durfee and I dialogued a day or two ago about, it was this former mayor of New York City, Bloomberg, candidate for president. When he was mayor, he really went after soda, and he's a billionaire. It didn't play well politically. It was more an elitist, you know, we're gonna
I
help.
thought you were trying to get soda out of schools.
No, I think,
Just taxing soda.
maybe it was both. I tend to agree with that.
Yes, I associate him with an attempt to tax soda, and we saw yesterday or whenever that there are, in no states, but several cities have soda taxes. Philly has one. And I don't know.
City of brotherly love.
But I mean, there's, and it's in my mind, there's little question that as a contributor to health issues, soda ranks right at the top. And
As a negative.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
added sugar and yeah.
But maybe education would be better than.
Yes,
yes.
Right?
Well, if it's a
And we already do tax it, so.
continuum of tobacco and alcohol too, I mean, like, those vice taxes started the same sort of thing, you could say, they, to some extent, impact maybe more than others.
Yeah, right, I mean, any sales tax is regressive and pricing is often regressive too, because I mean, everybody pays the same price for.
Right, it's making up a higher percentage of the lower wage earners.
I guess it's the difference between income and property. I think the one piece of irony in a property tax would be that generally the largest property owners are farmers who are growing food. It would cost them more to feed. You know what I'm saying, that piece of it, but I do, yeah. It feels, for the stability reason and, that all makes sense, but it would be, but I don't know the 3 cents, I don't know, just a thought. But.
And there is some sensitivity to farmers as far as some tax
Right.
relief. Some farmers.
There is an adjustment though, I mean with CLAs instead there's an adjustment with income, so it might not actually be that should be taken into account in effect, really, now that I think about it.
But it is important.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can continue to think about whether we have a strong feeling about one of those proposals. The JFO was asked to consider specific things, and I'm not sure whether I guess what I want to say is this is a tax thing, so we ought to bear that in mind, that it's ultimately for another committee to weigh in on and decide. But if we have a strong feeling about one of the options they presented or something that they didn't present, we can certainly include that.
What is the process, kind of shifting gears, what is the process for putting this local incentive piece in this legislation, if that's something we collectively want to do? Is that something we have Mike work on, and what's maybe be a good idea to get a feeling of where people are at there?
Yep. So it would, I think, be Beth actually from the Ledge Council. She drafted the bill, and she's going to come in next week and talk about the language that was passed 2 years ago, setting up the local food piece. And I think once we have had that conversation, then if the committee feels that it's the direction we want to go, just simply incorporate, if we decide we want to incorporate that into this bill, then she would do that for us. And then along with any other changes that we might want to make, which I think will likely happen, at least with the Agency of Education's requests for clarification. And then the committee would vote on whether to amend the bill, and then we would vote it out and send it off to the House.
That just on that whole idea, that feels like it feels like the local food for the local food incentive, and working that in somehow feels like just another return on investment. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels more palatable to say we're gonna spend this money because it's important, not only because we're making sure that our kids are fed, but we're also reinvesting in Vermont farming and getting our food locally and a reduced carbon footprint and all those, like, I feel like that's an argument there, just personally.
I think, I mean, from what I hear from people around the building, local food, the idea of increased local support for local food is one of the things that most excites people about universal school meals, but without putting the incentive in, there's actually no local, aside from sort of nutritionists saying it allows us to probably, but plan more and therefore, but there's no sort of actual tie saying universal school meals means more commitment to Vermont farmers. Also, the universal or the local food incentive program was $500,000, which is well within the sort of margin of error of the estimates of what universal school meals would cost. And so right now it's written at 29, but the estimate was 26 to 31. Could we say 29 and $500,000 of it goes to this? It's like it doesn't actually mean necessarily more of an appropriation. It's just saying is there a carve out to keep this program going?
That's a question that I have for legislative council is the dollar amount, which I am a little bit unclear on whether in fact we need to include dollar amount. It's comparable to other entitlements that currently go to school. So reimbursement for transportation, special education. And I'm not sure currently how those funds are appropriated, but it seems like however that process is handled, we can handle it the same way here, and that we wouldn't need to come up with a number.
Yeah.
And specifically, if we're intending for this to be a permanent program, we don't want to have to revisit this bill every year and come up with a new number. So we'll figure that out, I think, with Beth, or try to figure that out. But yeah, good points.
Right.
To Henry's point, we've heard testimony that said every dollar spent on locally produced and nutritious fresh produce or food that goes into our schools returns $1.60. So, that's a nice return on a monthly basis.
I think it actually says for every dollar spent on universal school meals, not necessarily the local part. $1.60 is returned to the local economy.
Let me pull it up.
That was one of the findings.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification.
It's,
I thought that was on local.
Yes, it's spent on local food in schools.
In school.
That's what contributes the added 60 cents to the economy, is according to that UVM Center for Food Studies.
Thank you.
That was in 2016 is when the study was conducted, so I don't know how that is.
It may be better now.
Do you know if a food authority buys through the local incentive, is that dollar figure added to what it costs per meal? Because essentially it's a subsidy on top of what they're already budgeting.
I don't think so. I think the way that it's written, the way that the bill is written, they would get the difference between paid price and the free price.
Right, but say, I'm essentially maxed out on my budget, but then I get a grant to do some local purchasing, so I buy beef from the Graham Farm. That's a certain amount of money. If we divide it up about, between all the meals we did, it would add a certain amount of pennies on top of whatever that was. Is that calculated in there, or is it just sort of considered like a freebie almost?
I'm not sure.
Now,
Yeah, we should probably check that
one thing we
specific
could
scenario.
potentially do is even you could double the grant for local incentive on the appropriations side.
Yeah.
Not even in the bill, if we actually wanted more local food going towards this program.
Yeah.
Because that's a done deal, like everybody would use that money for local food.
Yep, and then we heard this morning about the state match. That was a relatively easy way administratively to increase funding. Mike, did you know?
I was just gonna sort of draw the distinction between, there's the grant, there's the local food purchase grant that, you know, a school can go apply, get $10,000, take it and spend it at farms.
Right.
And then there's the incentive, which is the retroactive. They've proved that they've spent, 15% on local farms and next year get that reimbursement. And so the way that interacts with their overall meal spending is different. And also the way that it interacts with their budget is what's coming in the next year. Previous. Yeah.
I mean, I have mentioned this a couple times this morning, but I think that it would be very interesting to dig into whatever information Connor was able to send over about what the local foods actually are. And, I don't know whether that will inform what we do, but.
It also just occurs to me in just trying to talk through that in my own head, that I don't know if this has happened, but you could hypothetically, a school could use a grant to purchase food that then gets counted toward their percentage, and so you could sort of be
Double
counting, but that has a negative connotation. I actually think that's a great way to do it. You're supposed to do. So.
I said it.
Take it all back.
Why don't we take 5 minutes here? We've got our next witnesses already